Yeah.
Good morning. I am Bonnie Hawley, Executive Director of Friends of Santa Cruz State Parks. We are the nonprofit operating partner for California State Parks in the Santa Cruz and San Mateo coast areas. And I'm really super stoked to welcome you here today to the celebration of the completion of the Newcastle Beach Gate and the bilingual signs that tell the amazing history of this beach, as well as, more importantly, to celebrate the community that came together to make this project possible. So thank you for being here. The Castle Beach project is a partnership, has been a partnership between the Seabright Neighborhood Association, California State Parks, Friends of Santa Cruz State Parks, a lot of talented craftspeople who made these objects, as well as scores of community members. The project started in 2017. Sometimes things take a while. It started when Dan Modell, where's Dan, local historian, brought this idea to fix the gate to the Seabright Neighbors Association, and that was followed up by Bill Davis, the president, who came to Friends to get the project kicked off. So I'd like to just take a moment, like our signs, to start with a land acknowledgement, as happens at all state park events. Seabright State Beach is in the unceded homelands of the Awaswas-speaking Ohlone tribe, known as the Yupi, who stewarded these lands since time immemorial. Centuries of colonial violence led to the removal and displacement of the Yupi. Today, their descendants continue their stewardship and presence here in partnership with state parks. So it takes a village. You've heard that saying. It takes a village sometimes to get things going. And I want to acknowledge some people and some organizations through our program today who made that success possible. I'd like to start with our partner, Superintendent of California State Parks for the Santa Cruz District, Chris Spohrer.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Chris Spohrer. I'm the District Superintendent for State Parks. It's so good to see everybody here. What a beautiful spot to spend a little bit of time. I get calls, time to time about this place, and sometimes those people refer to this as Castle Beach. And I think that's a person that knows their history, or that's a person that's been here for a while. They grew up here. It's really cool. And I think that's what's so great about something like this is this project connects people who maybe didn't grow up here or don't know that history to this really interesting and meaningful history of the place. So having a new gate that really shows off that, having these bilingual interpretive signs shows that off to everybody that wants to come here, in addition to the community pride that's obviously here. And one of the things that's special about our district is we have these co-management partners. Friends of Santa Cruz State Parks really amplifies our ability to connect with the community, to do projects like this that otherwise we probably don't have the bandwidth to do. That's a really important thing. And so I really appreciate Bonnie, Peg, staff, the board, everybody that's connected to Friends of Santa Cruz State Parks. It makes a huge difference to our community parks, but also these parks that are, they welcome people from around the world. It's a big deal. So thank you for that. I also want to thank a few people that had something to do at State Parks with this installation. So starting, I guess, in 2017, we've had some early help here from Elizabeth Hammock. She's one of our interpretive leads. Also Rhiannon Sims. And then the original design of this gate, Sharon Galligan was the original designer of that gate. So it turned out pretty great. And then we've had a lot of help with the installation and maintenance of these things. So in our maintenance folks, Augie Ceballos was an early supporter here. And then Michael Sakelis, Michael Ortiz, and Bill Holland. Also a lot of help getting this in. And then because we always go through environmental documents, Scott Rolfe helped us see that part of it. But it takes that kind of team, State Parks, having our great partners here, co-management partners, Friends of Santa Cruz, and then everybody in the community that's pulled together to make something like this happen. So really appreciate all that. Great to see everybody. Uh-oh.
I want to have a contest. Who's been here the longest? I'll start with 75 years.
I can't top that one.
74.
Oh, wow. Wow. Impressive. Okay.
84.
84.
About 82.
82. That says a lot about a community. That is very impressive. Glad everybody's here. Okay, I think I'm going to sit down, turn it over. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. So along with that incredible state parks team, I wanted to acknowledge the people on the Friends staff who've been working on this project. Our project manager, Jessica Kush, who's been on top of this since day one. And then because this took such a long time, we had a series of coordinators of this project back to Amanda Seegers, and then Chrissy Canlis, and then finally Jennifer Matlock brought it home. So thank you, Jennifer.
While you're looking at me, I will draw your attention to the truck that's trying to get through. So maybe scoot in a little bit.
Thank you. So truck coming through. We also have our Parks Philanthropy Director, Joe Kenny, who helped with the fundraising. We have our administrative team, Laura Pascal, our finance director, Nina Rose Odegaard, Ann Myers, Peg Danielson, who brought the amazing, I don't know if you can see behind Joby here, this amazing 1910s bathing suit that would have been sported here at some point, and then the 1930s umbrella that came from her family. So thank you, Peg, for that. Lauren Kadiama organized this event today. There's Lauren in the back. Thank you, Lauren. We have Randall McClune, who is here, and then 3 of our board members, our board chair, Nicolara Dunbar-Jansen. Nicolara, I know you're here somewhere. Charlie Kiefer and Charlene Duval. So thank you, board members. And then finally, for this part of the program, I just wanted to also mention the amazing people who made what you see here today. So Rigel Hunter of Hunter Designs made the gate. He took the metal, put it all together, and then it was painted by Francisco Espinoza of Fine Luxury Painting. Fossil Industries fabricated the signs, and then we were very lucky to have the beautiful pictures that you see here that were provided by the Santa Cruz Museum of Art and History, Seabright Neighborhood Association, and Lionel Traci Lennox and Nancy Lennox collection. So all projects need funding, obviously. How many here donated to this project? I know you're in here. Thank you so much for the donations. So this has really been a community effort, as I said earlier, from all over. So Arizona, Hawaii, Oregon, Stockton, Fresno, and of course locally. We got donations from all over. And then the Friends Board of Directors kicked in the rest. The community fundraising really kicked off 1 year ago yesterday when Traci Bliss very kindly hosted a tea at her home. Linda Bailey, the realtor, who I'm sure you all know, really helped us get that going with a mailing party and assistance at her office. And then Sue Hagan McCrary and Mary Randall Peterson, who I know is here, was also very helpful with the fundraising. So thank you very much. And then interestingly, I have to go for my, where am I? I have show and tell. So in addition to the individual donations, Discretion Brewing made a beer called Castle Beach, and they had an event and some of the proceeds were donated to this project. So thanks a lot to Kathleen Genko, the owner of Discretion Brewing. And then, as I said, finally, the Friends Board of Directors. So now we're going to turn to some fascinating history. First, I would like to introduce the nephew of Louis Scholl of Scholl-Mar Castle, who also generously donated his personal collection about the castle to the Santa Cruz Museum of Natural History, and he grew up in this area, Bob Watson.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And this is a special day for me because I grew up and here in the castle, and behind it I lived for a while. And I just wanted to go over a little bit of history of the castle itself. I don't know how many people here, you can hold up your hand, ever saw the castle personally. So, I know a lot of people did. And being the nephew of Louis Scholl and my mother being the brother of Louis Scholl, they were the 3 with my grandfather who formed the opportunity to buy the property from the Pilkingtons to build a castle. And it was my uncle's dream to have the castle and he always wanted to build a castle, and everybody thought he was nuts. He said he was going to build it, and he did. And they started on the construction in the 20s, and it opened for visitors and to eat in the restaurants and things on the 29th of March, I believe, in 1929.
Wow.
And my mother, my uncle, and my grandfather operated the castle through 1944. And he sold the castle to Mr. Dodd. And Louis Scholl was quite a person. I think you've seen the wood in there in these pictures. It was in, there's some wood there now, but it was much different when there was no beach. And the logs would come in each year, and they would punch holes in the side of the castle. And he would be out there for months replacing the chicken wire and the stucco stuff that he put on the castle and repainting it. He also worked down the coast trying to save the cliffs on the north, this side of the castle, because the waves were just battering against it all year long. And for 5 years, he worked with his buddies and put cement in there, poured cement in the summertime, yards and yards of cement, and they wheelbarrowed it in there and poured it in there to try and save the cliff. Somewhere along the way, the city awarded him because of his attempt to save it. And how you can judge what he did, if you look at the cliff now, which is pretty stable where it is, but you go down the other way toward the yacht harbor, you'll see how the road is eroded and all disappeared, and that's what he was trying to save. He also was 4F in the military in the Second World War, and he couldn't go on service, so he went to Camp Stoneman with a couple of his friends, and they roofed every building in Camp Stoneman up in the Delta area. And he also saved several people in the ocean here. He was a lifeguard before he started on the castle, and he won a award here. You know, what do you call it? The famous award that they give out. Where's Daniel?
Carnegie.
Carnegie Award. He won a Carnegie Award for saving a person here off the water. Most of the things that happened for me, because I was born in the late 30s, and I lived, like I said, next door to the castle and in Seabright. My father owned a grocery store on Seabright Avenue, and that's how my mother married my father, because she bought stuff there for the castle, which she got some really good prices, I guess. But, anyway, that was the beginning of the relationship. I worked at the castle. My first job here at the castle was collecting the rented umbrellas and chairs every afternoon during the summer months. I got 10 cents a piece for bringing them back up to my mother inside who rented them. And so that was just another story. But there's so many things that went on in the castle and the things that happened here. And I think the change in the weather, it was a real battle for Uncle Louis. And when he sold the castle, my grandfather inherited Jacob Swan, you know, Swan Lake that's here, ranch out there. And it kind of went through the family. And when they died, the Swans died, it went to, because of Uncle Louis' uncle, it went to my grandfather. And he owned it and lived there, worked on it, kept it. It was an active ranch with cattle, sheep, all kinds of animals. And eventually, when my grandparents died, Louis and my mother inherited it. So as Louis was going along, he was originally a carpenter, a contractor, and a roofer. And I think he wanted to really get back into that again, you know, while he was still able to do it. So that's the reason why I was told by my mother he sold the castle. So he went to the ranch, which is out off 14th Avenue, and he rebuilt the whole place. And on the street, there was no street in there, it was just a dirt road, so he named it Scholl Lane. So anyway, and he put houses, we would go, I went with him several times, we went, and where they take the moved houses they've taken off property, and they have a storage lot in Watsonville. And we go down there, and I went down with her several times. He bought a house. He built 5 houses out there, remodeled them and everything on his Scholl Lane and rented them. So that was another story. And later on, of course, with all the animals gone, well, they grew grain on these 12 acres out there. They were growing grain all the time. But my memory is so vivid at the castle, and my mother, she was a great hot dog and hamburger cooker too. Boy, she knew what she was
Great
doing.
hamburgers.
Pardon?
Great hamburgers.
Oh yeah, she knew what she was doing. And so, the saltwater baths were gone. They were originally in the castle long before my time. And that we were gone, and we were just basically down to the restaurant upstairs and down below. But it's kind of an important thing to me. The castle has always been important. I have a tremendous collection of stuff that came through the family. And luckily, part of it got sent up here to the museum for them. They were very generous to take it all. But we had a storage unit over by Harbor High School, and we had a robbery there. We robbed 5 places, and we lost over 120 things from the castle, such things as chairs, menus, glassware. All those things were all taken. And we never found any of it. But we did get part of it, a small part of it up there at the museum, so that was something. But if after we're done here, you have any questions of me about the castle, and I know there's people here that remember it very well. I run into people all the time, and it's just, I'm very proud of it, so I hope everybody enjoys it and the pictures of it, because it was quite a place. And the ones that have been there, I envy you. I know what you were seeing. So thank you very much.
So to continue on with the history, I'd like to introduce Traci Bliss. So Traci, along with Randall Brown, wrote the book Santa Cruz's Seabright, which will be for sale at this table over here after the event. She also helped to write some of the content here, and she reviewed multiple drafts of that content. She helped us with securing the rights to the photos. She liaised to the neighborhood. She helped with fundraising, and she has deep personal ties to this neighborhood. So Traci Bliss.
Okay, one of the challenges of being a historian, and it's also one of the joys, is that you write an article or a book, and 3 months after it comes out, you find a critical piece of information that you didn't know when you were writing the book. And nothing has ever been more the case in my writing than with this book. So 3 months after it got published, my co-author, Randall Brown, discovered the article in which it was truly Gladys Scholl Watson who had the vision for a castle. She told her brother the building needed to be in the shape of a castle, and that's what it should be. And how often did that happen to women in the 20th century when they had a vision and everybody forgot it was a woman? But I assure you, in this case, it was Gladys Scholl Watson that had the vision for a castle. Okay, so a beloved Sentinel reporter named Wally Trebing, he interviewed Gladys in the 1980s towards the end of her life. And at the conclusion of his article, he said this: when Scholl-Mar Castle opened in the late 1920s, it was quite a sight because Santa Cruz was not castle country. In fact, the only knights we had around here were with the Knights of Columbus. So what I'd like to just take a few minutes to share with all of you is what it was like being a local and having the castle as our hood in the late 1950s and early 60s. So I really had to think about what were the 3 most important aspects for me and my friends about having the castle as our go-to place, and really essential to our identity. So first of all, the locals, not the people who came in the summer, the locals who were here in 1960 or before or after, raise your hands. Is that so cool? Okay. So for me, the most fun thing about the castle, one of the most fun things, was we would body surf at San Lorenzo Point, considered the best body surfing north of Santa Barbara. It was fabulous, but because the harbor hadn't come yet, there was no beach. There was no beach at all. So after you went body surfing, this was like a hard afternoon, Chip, you remember, of intense body surfing. We would come here, like lie right out there. This was the only beach, the Castle Beach, except when you went further down. We would lie in the sand, we would get super warm, and as soon as we were warm enough, we'd come right up to the castle, to the fountain that Bob talked about, and there was Gladys selling snow cones. And I always ordered the same thing, this really ugly looking green lime snow cone. And the snow cones were the best.
Cherry
So,
for me.
cherry for you.
Grape for me.
Grape for you. Other flavors. Other flavors. What?
Strawberry.
Strawberry. See how variety? All right. So that, it was paradise. I mean, what could be better, right, than that, having that as your summer routine? The second part of it is several of us, our dads, would leave work early and come down here to play volleyball. This was the ultimate volleyball hub. There couldn't be a better volleyball court. Why? Because the castle was the perfect windbreak, and it also meant your volleyballs weren't going to go running off into the ocean because it blocked the balls. Ideal for volleyball. A lot of great volleyball players came from right here. Anyway, so this was not just any ordinary group of businessmen, okay, who played volleyball here. And it was so fun for us to get to bond with our dads. But when their leader, okay, a local lawyer named Stuart Curitin, when he passed on in the 1970s, this group of guys said, we need to do something to memorialize, in his memory. So if you'll all turn around and you'll look straight down, you can see half a bench sort of at the end of that walkway. Now, Chris, I don't know if Chris will note this, but I think that is probably the only unauthorized bench in a California.
No, John got it authorized.
In California state parks when it was put in.
Well, yeah, when
okay.
it was put in.
When it was put in. Okay, they didn't care. Okay, they weren't going to ask anybody's permission. They were going to put in a bench to remember their volleyball leader. And there it is, okay, still standing 50 years later. So that's pretty cool as a monument, remembering the Seabright guys. The third thing, which really means a lot to me, is that every summer we would have all of these people come who had second homes here. They were from Sacramento, they were from Stockton, they were from Fresno. Remember, this is way before UCSC, right? And all of a sudden, little old Santa Cruz was cool and cosmopolitan, right? We had this huge influx, and it was so fun. And these people are lifelong friends of mine, Ann Jenkins, other people who are here today. And will those second homeowners who were here all during that period, raise your hands. Mary, Fresno, all of these people, Judy, and they're all featured in this book, okay, Santa Cruz's Seabright. So it was just such a very special, iconic place for all of us to feel and build community. And these relationships have endured. So I think I want to conclude with my own set of acknowledgments. And I've had the privilege over the last 2 years of working with Friends of Santa Cruz State Parks under Bonnie Holly's leadership. This is the third history project in 2 years. And I can say without doubt, they always go the extra mile. And it's just a joy to get to work with Bonnie and all of the staff. And also with Chris Spohrer, making these things happen. And the really special acknowledgement I want to give for the creation of this book, at least 50 people contributed to our writing of this book, with pictures, with stories. It was so much fun. It was such a community happening, creating the book. And the one that touched my heart the most, the contributor that touched my heart the most, is Stan Stevens, who is considered like the dean of Santa Cruz County history. He passed on last year. And he knew how frustrated I was when my publisher said, you can have 1 page for your index. So I got 60 words for my index. And Stan said, out of his generous heart, Traci, let me do an index for you. And Stan Stevens created this 30-page index over 900 words. So if you want to know the history of Seabright, this index is absolutely indispensable. Okay, but it didn't get republished, and what were you going to do? Well, I just can't say enough thank you to the Museum of Natural History, because they now have put this entire index online. And here is the code. So just come over to the little table when we're done and pick up your bookmark so you can access the code. If you don't have a book, that's why we're selling a few copies for discount today. All the royalties go to support the Natural History Museum. And it's so fun to have all these pieces come together, which show what a community happening this has been and how many people have been involved in all of this. But especially huge thanks to Stan Stevens and this fabulous index that is now accessible to everyone. So let's conclude with a round of applause for everyone who's been involved.
Thank you so much, Traci. So you mentioned the Museum of Natural History. They are having their 118th birthday bash today that starts at 11 o'clock. So I hope you'll all take the opportunity to go over there and enjoy their event. Kirsten Elsie Loving, I believe, is here from the museum. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being such a great partner. We've also had just an amazing outpouring, as I mentioned, from the community in so many ways. And Les Forster is here, and he created these Castle Beach t-shirts from a drawing made by a student. And it was a limited edition, but I'm afraid you probably are going to need to go into business and make some more of these Castle Beach. So thank you, Les, for your work on those. I also wanted to acknowledge our park. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Okay.
I couldn't hear. There's too much loud applause about the shirt. Where are they sold?
Well,
I would say just see me if you're interested in one. Yeah. I'm doing it in conjunction with Sports Design, which is a local shop we've worked with for years on a variety of projects. The design, courtesy of a just graduated graphic arts student at SoCal High School. I sent him the picture. He did the artwork. So I've got a picture just like that with me and my family in 1960 standing on the castle steps. So one thing led to another, and that led to shirts.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you. I skipped over one name when I was acknowledging our production assistants. Our friends at Miller Maxfield Incorporated helped with the production of these beautiful signs. Also, in just a minute, we're going to untie the ribbon and take a group photo, and I hope you will all come over to be in the group photo because this is a historic moment in its own right. And after that, we're going to enjoy cake. The image that's on here, this very image, is reproduced on the cake. So have a look at the cake before it gets cut, and then please enjoy the cake. So the very last thing that I have is Sonia Bruner here. We were expecting Sonia from the city. I think she has not made it, but she was going to present us with a mayor's proclamation. He couldn't be here today, but Mayor Keeley says, I, Fred Keeley, Mayor of the City of Santa Cruz, do hereby proclaim August 19th, 2023 as Scholl-Mar Castle Day in the City of Santa Cruz and encourage one and all to visit Seabright State Beach to view this vibrant piece of local history now on display for the community. So happy Scholl-Mar Castle Day, everybody.